Now that I've cleared out my inbox, the next step is going to be to go through context by context. So starting at the top and working through to the bottom and just reviewing all of my tasks and figuring out what the next steps are and what I need to be focused on this week. So this is really the meat and potatoes. This is where you're going to spend the bulk of your time when you're doing your weekly review. And this is where all of the value gets generated because, again, you're forced to go through and really think critically about each one of these contexts that you're operating in and what needs to happen moving forward. So we'll start here with the top one. I'll expand this ticketing app launch out. And the very first thing that I'm going to do is actually click and drag on this up next section. I have a couple of items here related to this context that I'm always pulling forward into the most current week. So I'll click and drag that over, and you can see that line pop up there indented underneath the ticketing app launch. I'll let go, and now you can see, again, I have pulled that up next section over, and it is nested under the appropriate context. So we'll come back and look at these in just a second, but that's pulled over and out of the way. So now I'm going to loop back over here and take a look at my to-dos. So I'm going to click and hold and expand this out. Again, just a short click is just going to expand it out one level. But if I click and hold to expand it out, it's going to expand everything. So it's that full expansion, full collapse thing that we've talked about. So you can look here and you can see that the next step was to schedule the announcement to go out on Wednesday at 9 a.m. You can see here in my log, this is where the log is really helpful. I've put notes in for myself. So it looks like on April 30th, the team submitted the feedback and I went ahead and processed it. So all of those release communications are ready. And so I know I've got a next step here. So what I'm going to do, the very first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and nest a bullet underneath my ticketing app launch context. I'll hit Command Enter to make it a to-do, and I'll say schedule release announcement for Wednesday at 9 a.m. Okay. Now I'm going to come back over here. I'll do a full collapse. So again, click and hold. And then I'm just going to click one more time to expand it back out. And I'll grab all three of these and just pull them over. Okay, that keeps my log and my resources with this next step. So I maintain kind of a continuous trail of work that's been going on related to this task. Because again, these two are very much linked together. From there, I'll clear out this next step because I've already moved that up here, and we'll go ahead and close that one down, and we're done. So let's move on to this next one, finalize press release. Once again, I'm going to click and hold here to fully expand this task out. I'll go ahead and look at my log so you can see I submitted the sample quote to Tom. Tom approved the quote. So my next step here was to send the release out to our press contacts. So I'll come over here. I'll say send press release out to press contacts. Once again, I'll go ahead and collapse all this down. Another way you can do this, just to illustrate these different methods, you can do whichever one works for you. I'll click here just to collapse it down to that level. If I put my cursor here, by the way, a little shortcut I want to show you here. If you're kind of a keyboard shortcut nerd like myself, you can hit escape. That's going to select that full line. And then if I hold shift and hit down, it's going to select the rest of those. So let me do that again really quickly for you. I'll put my cursor in this top line. I'll hit escape, hold shift and hit down twice, and that'll select all three of those. And once you've done that a few times, you can get really quick at it. And that's just a great thing to practice. So escape, shift, down a couple of times. I've got all three of those, and I'll go ahead and pull those over to the new task. So you can see here that when I'm done, each task is going to end up cleared out. There's going to be nothing nested underneath there, and it should be checked off. So I'll go ahead now and collapse that one down. And let's take a look at this third one here underneath the ticketing app launch. Ensure the training team is ready. So once again, click and hold to fully expand that task out. Ensure the training team is ready. Looks like I booked a meeting on Thursday. This did not get done, but I am going to have a meeting here. We're on Wednesday, May 4th. So that meeting is going to be tomorrow. So what I can do, since this task didn't get complete, if these are incomplete, typically what I like to do is just pull the whole thing forward. Now, this might seem a little confusing, but generally speaking, the reason I like to leave these behind is so that I have an audit trail. And we'll get to that here in a couple of lessons where I can look back and see week over week what got done. For these that didn't get done, I will often just go ahead and pull the whole task forward because this is still just a pure open task that did not get completed last week. I'll expand that out. Next step is prep for the meeting. So I'm good to go there. Ensure the training team is ready. I'll make this a bit more specific now. This is part of that review, again, driving more and more clarity into my tasks. Let me make this one a little bit more specific and a little bit more clear. So I'll say, conduct final meeting with training team on Thursday. And my next step here is going to be to prep for that meeting. So we should be good there. I'll go ahead and collapse that down. And you can see that this context review is now complete. So we are good there. And what I want to do over here in the new weekly planner is take a look at the up next section and just pull anything up that I'm also going to review and work on this week. So final review with the QA team. That is something that we're coming down the finish line on. So I do need to make some progress on that this week. I'll go ahead and pull that one up. I'll place my cursor here and hit Command Enter to make that into a to-do. I will nest a bullet underneath that one and do my double semicolon here to pull up my templates, new task entry, final review of QA with team. I'll make this a bit more action-oriented. So perform final review of QA with the team. And I'll say next step there is to schedule a meeting. Okay, that one is good. And then conduct launch webinar. That is not going to happen this week. The webinar is going to be a few weeks out. So I'll go ahead and leave that one in the up next section because I don't quite need to dive into that one yet. So again, you'll see this as you go through this process multiple times. Sometimes these up next tasks are going to sit there and you're making a deliberate choice to say, this is something I am not going to work on this week. Other times you're going to need to pull those up and dive into them that week. So that's really how I use the up next section. So we've now completely reviewed one of our contexts. We'll take a pause here. We'll come back in and we'll work through the next two contexts together just to really drive this point home. Again, I know this process is really the most complex part of the process, but it really is where all the value is derived. So I want to make sure we spend another lesson just going through a few more examples to really drive this process home.